morning is that we'll introduce the major groups. We'll then have a briefing from our colleagues from IISD, from Kimo and Pam. We will then turn it over to the major groups to make any observations on the session of the last day. We'll then open the floor to anybody to ask questions to Pam and Kimo. And then we'll turn it over to Chantaline to give us any updates and briefings. And then we'll end up with four questions from the floor to Chantaline. So let me start by introducing my other major group organizing partner colleagues. As you know, one of the major outcomes of Rio and Agenda 21 was the creation of the Commission on Sustainable Development and the major group process. This has been one of the most sustaining and beneficial outcomes from the Rio conference. So as I call the group, could the organizing partner please stand up and identify themselves so that those in the room can see who they are. Children and youth. Excellent. Women. The NGOs. Indigenous people. You're not here yet. Farmers. And my co-chair this morning from Trade Union. Science and technology. Business and industry, here I am. And local, and local authorities. Excellent. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to Pam, who will give us a briefing from yesterday.
Probably the main headlines from yesterday, if you were going to headline news, was very slow progress, in some cases backtracking. The discussions on green economy broke down late in the day as the G77 decided that unless there was progress on means of implementation, they were no longer going to discuss green economy. And some people felt that that was a real watershed event, and that I heard both comments like it's about time they did this, and I had other comments saying, well, what does that mean for green economy? The one sign that the pressure is starting to build is there is much more of a hands-on approach by the host country, which has been fairly low-key up until now. But we were seeing Brazil more involved in a lot of informal consultations yesterday, and particularly with regard to governance and energy issues. And then finally, the other observation of the overall observation of the day was that, to quote today's Earth Negotiations Bulletin, the future we want is turning out more to be like the past we've already had. So it's our increasingly looking back on previously agreed language from the Fourth World Conference on Women, the International Conference on Population and Development, numerous GA resolutions. And so rather than being risky and looking for new language and being more forward-looking, it seems that we're looking backwards. Overall, now in theory, the PrepCon is supposed to end today, and I can't tell you what the plans are, with the exception that at last night's working group meetings, they essentially said that the conference was going to be turned over to the Brazilians after today. What that means, I can't tell you. Generally, we've seen very little progress. I'm just going to focus a little bit on one issue, which was the IFSD discussions, because civil society took a major part in those discussions yesterday. For those of you who were not there, there was quite a very long discussion on the role of civil society, with the G77 wanting there to be clear distinction between the role of civil society at the national level and the role of civil society at the international level, to the the point of wanting separate paragraphs or separate bullet points, identifying that they're not one and the same. And that's something we should keep an eye out for, I think, as members of civil society and where things are going to go with that. The EU is probably the biggest proponent of civil society involvement and kept trying to insert it, and you could just watch over at G77 thinking, oh God, we got to argue this one too. And that was sort of my sense of that meeting yesterday. Just on a few other issues. Forest discussions have only two major outstanding issues, which is REDD+ and illegal logging and associated trade. Agriculture moved very slowly. Poverty, there was still some outstanding language, mainly because there's an ILO meeting going on right now, and I think they want to steal the language that the ILO adopts, put it into this. Surprisingly enough, they reached agreement on reaffirming the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that's sort of a perspective for me that, here's this 60-plus-year-old document that was under contention of whether we should reaffirm it. Finally, on oceans, IUU fishing and subsidies remain outstanding, as well as the issue of marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction, which we knew was going to be a sticking point. And they couldn't agree on references to green jobs in the jobs discussion, which I also found ironic. And finally, on a couple of other issues, the implementation discussions are hobbling along, sadly, and I don't think right now for the schedule for today, the green economy discussions are set to resume this morning, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make any progress once again until we see what happens with means of implementation. So we have 9 splinter groups right now that are going to continue to meet throughout the day. And as far as I'm aware, the preparatory committee will actually meet in plenary at 10 p.m. tonight. And that is, in theory, they're the last meeting of it, but I can't tell you what they're going to decide during the day in terms of their vote.
Thank you very much, Pam. Now I'd like to open the floor to any of the participants here who have any further observations that they would like to make at this time. We'll start off with.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you, Pam, for this good report. Probably just 2 little elements on some of the aspects that were highlighted in the report on the work on poverty and the work on jobs, which are 2 that we are following closely. Just to say, as you know, in the poverty section, there is this paragraph on social protection that in the end was removed because governments were expected to see it only in one place, so they consider that social protection belongs to jobs. Of course, well, we do not necessarily agree with that approach, but nobody cares. The important thing here is that the ILO discussion on social protection has actually ended. The recommendation of the social protection law has been adopted unanimously yesterday. So this ended up with the discussion on jobs, adding a new reference to the ILO recommendation on the social protection floor, replacing a previous sentence on an initiative to share best practices on social protection. So what does it mean for people that are not necessarily following social protection as we are, and so we know other colleagues in other age groups doing that as well? It means that once again we are just endorsing a UN instrument, which is something we welcome. Welcoming another UN instrument, but we are once again deleting a concrete element from the text, which was at least calling on governments to launch something where they will share best practices on social protection. So once again, we are going to endorse instruments that exist and we welcome, but once again, we are losing on concrete outcomes from that chapter 5, which is probably one of our key demands to governments, is, as Pam was saying, not just endorse things that have been agreed, but trying to go one step further in terms of implementation. So that is when it comes to social protection and on jobs, indeed, the divide between whether yes or no we can mention green jobs stands, and at least when it comes to the labor movement, I think we would very much welcome progress on that issue. Of course, this work is our motto. It's something we strongly support, and we are very happy G77 supports it. We think we should also acknowledge opportunities for jobs in a more sustainable economy, and that's the idea. So we are trying to find out a way to represent the spirit of green jobs, even if the word green that seems to be contentious, despite the theme of the conference, could go with the case and have a green. Just one thing, probably colleagues from ISD could help us understanding, is the role of the co-facilitators, which is very diverse. Across the groups, nations. We have seen facilitators that are very skilled, very experienced, that know how to bring consensus, and others, without naming a specific group, but some that I've been following, that tend to cut short on any sort of discussion, saying, well, but there is no agreement, so let's erase it. So which in the end brings some sort of very, very, I don't know, weak text in the end of those groups. So, any assessment?
There is a fine art of chairing a meeting, and very few people know how to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, facilitators are chosen because they want to have equitable geographic distribution, they want to have gender balance, they want to have some cases co-chairs between a developed and developing country. So they want to ensure that balance, and quite often the people who they choose as a result of that are not always skilled in sharing. I think the art of chairing a meeting is very important with regard to timing. You need to know when to shut down discussions, when to propose a compromise. A lot of them are not willing to take those risks and propose compromises, and I've seen a lot of sort of, things just slowing down, waiting for the chair to do something, and the chair's like, well, we'll come back to it later. Or at least that's what I saw a lot of yesterday. So unfortunately, the best chairs are not always chosen for the job. A lot of it is more political than like, well, who's a good chair? You have to think back though to 1992, where the chair of the PrepCom was chosen because he was a good chair. Tommy Coe was the one who led the negotiations on the law of the sea. Anyone who could conclude 10 years of negotiations with a treaty, they figured would be capable of negotiating what became, leading the negotiations of Agenda 21. But subsequently, actually probably since maybe the Fourth World Conference on Women, we have not seen chairs often chosen for their skill, but rather for political reasons. I wanted to add one more thing that I forgot to mention in the institutional discussions. This is something a lot of people have been interested in, is what's going to be the future for the Commission on Sustainable Development and what sort of institutional arrangements are going to be made. And in that group, the chair has been trying to get delegates to focus on functions before form. And there was a bit of a tug of war yesterday as a couple of delegates actually put forth proposals on form before they reached agreement on functions. So that sort of tug of war took place, but the one thing that was pretty clear is that whatever new, whether it's going to be a new high-level body that meets when needed or meets regularly, or whether it's going to be in terms of conferences of universal membership within the context of the ECOSOC, one thing that was pretty clear is that the CSD's methodology for allowing the participation of civil society is going to have to be retained in whatever that new body is. And that seemed to be, even among the G77, sort of a, we'll see, nothing's done until it's done. But it seemed like a fairly fair, that there was consensus that what we agree upon will still allow the participation of civil society that the CSD currently has.
I just want to add a comment to what Pam said. I think the reference she just made to the paragraph around civil society, major group stakeholders, participation is something that we all need to be diligently looking at, because this text has, for those of you who follow the PrEP and the informal since January, it's been off and it's been on and it's been off and it's been on. Now the text which is this right now is reasonably strong, but you have to remember also that if it's retained within the confines of ECOSOC, there are lots of loopholes there that may weaken the civil society major group stakeholders interactive participatory process. So be diligent on that, because it's our existence inside the future negotiations. And as Pam said, let's not look at the past we had, but the future we want this time. Thank you.
Excellent. Are there any other observations from the floor right now on the state of negotiations? Okay, would anyone like to pose any questions to Pam before we move on? Excellent. Okay, I'm going to now turn the floor over to Cheveline.
Thank you, Louise. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming from ISSD. Really appreciate it. Not only the fact that you guys get up very early to be here, got great analysis, but on top of it, you can see things that possible security things. I just want to thank you for being here. It's so much easier for us if you're all here. We can all talk together, and then instead of responding to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 emails. So quickly, I'm going to repeat a lot of information for those of you that were here yesterday, but some people are new. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. There's also new information, so don't tune up if you were here yesterday. There's been some complaint, some concern, the fact that the shuttle get you here late. So there's a lot of people that wish to be here that are not here because they just can't make it because there's so much traffic. We asked this morning, and they were supposed to start half an hour earlier. I don't know if somebody tried to go out half an hour earlier and got here, but please come. If you did and you have any information, come and see us so we can assess that. But in any case, just in case it didn't happen, and also because it's going to be pretty kind of fluid the next 4 days, what I've requested is to have a room from 9:30 to 10:30, and have this briefing from 9:30 to 10:30 for tomorrow, during the entire data day, so 16, 17, 18, 19. Instead of having it at this time, we would have it an hour later, 9:30 to 10:30, so people can actually make it here. I do not have the room. I hope to be able to receive that call before we all leave here and tell you which room it is. Otherwise, you will have that information as well as all the other information through your organizing partner when you go to these major group sector meetings throughout the day-to-day in the major group room in T1 or T11. That schedule for your major groups meetings is on that door of T1 and T11. And I know that it's farmers first, then it's NGOs, then I can't remember with after, but that schedule is there. Okay. The other thing I want to update you on is we have a slight change in schedule for the next capacity building workshop. The arena, I don't know how many people try to go to the arena? Exactly. Yeah, okay, so I haven't been there either, don't feel guilty. I will try to do that today to assess the situation. Our next capacity building workshop is on the 18th. We have to put in place it takes about half an hour to get there. And then what we learned is that you have to be issued a government ID. You don't have to be registered here, but you have to get a registered ID, so it's another 10 minutes. So you have to leave at least 40 minutes in advance if you want to do anything out there. So basically, the next capacity building workshop then, for these reasons, will be at 10:45 on the 18th. We will put the information online and update everybody and update the OPs. They will tell you, again, this information for those of you that are here today. And then we'll just extend it later during the day if you want to provide more than 55 we haven't decided yet. Today, the access will continue as we had it so far. All the meeting in P3 are open to you until the room fills up. The only limit is capacity. Again, it's the same rule of respect. This is not, you are not a negotiator, unfortunately, we all wish we were. But we are not negotiators here, we are observers for these sessions. So you sit in the back and you listen, and please do not take pictures and don't film those. It is not appropriate, this is not a right that you have to be in this room, this is a privilege, and we want to keep this privilege for you, but that means you cannot actually film those or take pictures of them and put them on Facebook in these negotiations. We can do it here, we can do it when we have our dialogues, not during those negotiations. We also, talking about respect, I mentioned that yesterday, nothing happened yesterday, thank you so much everybody. But also the other thing that was brought to our attention is that in the side event room, people do leave a lot of trash behind them, banana peels and bottles and stuff. This is your house, the major group pavilion is your house. If you leave the trash there, you're trashing your own house. Please, we're gonna ask the cleaning people to come behind, but you know, we're all adults here. We should be able to pick up our stuff. There's trash bin now. I knew the first day there was no trash bin, so this was problematic, but we asked for those. So please help us here and try to keep that place clean and enjoyable. It's bad enough that our eyes burn in that place then. We don't want to have trash on top of it. The secondary passes for dialogue days. You are getting nervous, right? Yeah. So are we. We were told yesterday that the Brazilian government will distribute those at the registration desk. We will send you more information because we don't have more information than that. Whatever we have, we send it to the organizing partner, they will tell you, but that's the information we have. So they will distribute it, this is the Brazilian way. They always make it happen, but sometimes it's a bit at the last minute. So, you know, it will happen. It's just a matter of getting those passes to you. The other passes for Pavilion 5, which will be for the 20th, the height of the second, 20th, 21st, 22nd, that will be distributed later by Pepe through your organizing partners. Later. No, not today. God, you guys are so excited about those passes. We should sell them. To finance the next meeting or something. Kidding. Okay, so please go to the briefing of each of your major group sectors. This is where you get a lot of the details about these things.
One question on the dialogues. You said Brazilians are going to distribute them, but so people, these are going to be given also to the OPs as we discussed for OPs, organizing partners, to give it to members of their constituencies, or we are expecting each one of our delegates to go to those desks and get their passes.
My understanding is, and again, I explained this yesterday, a lot of people are new. There's 700, about half the passes that were given, that were distributed through the organizing partners, and the other half by the Brazilian government online. My understanding is the organizing partner will get their pass in one chunk, and then you guys are going to distribute them. And then the others that registered online would have to go and get their individually, because there's no actual process. But again, we're working on those, that's my understanding. Because that's what we were told originally. We're still working with that assumption. Can we just go through this and maybe get a question afterwards? Yeah, okay. So again, in terms of demonstration, you saw that there was one that was approved yesterday, so I was not kidding you. Somebody asked for the Fossole word, and they actually got, the security approved it, so now we have the Fossole word, and apparently the US won the first prize yesterday. We'll see who wins today. But basically they had it outside of B3. Somebody else asked me for another demonstration. Oh, the flash mob. There will be a flash mob. So they're assessing that. So please, if you are planning a demonstration, don't just go ahead and do it. Much easier to go through me, to security. We make sure it's okay so you don't get thrown out and you still get the result you want. No demonstration in plenary room, please. That is not acceptable. Okay, today is the last day to vote on the dialogue day, so if you haven't done so yet, you want to do that today. I think, let me see, media coverage. If you are having a side event and you would like and to invite the media to come, doesn't mean they will come, but what our media people have told us from the UN is that if you send them the information, they can actually put it in their list of daily events for the journalists on their options to cover. We have one of our contact person, which is Natasha, that will gather all these and send them to her by, she needs to get that by 5 p.m. So you need to send it to her by 4, Natasha by 4, and then basically we'll share it to her, and it's going to be in the list of activities to the journalists. So you go to your organizing partners, and then they're going to collect it, they're going to send it to Natasha, and we get it. We have new text as of yesterday at different hours of the day, so I will be sending this information shortly to all of the organizing partners. I apologize, I don't have yet the list of email of people registered. So again, it's very important that you are on the list of distribution of each of the organizing partners, because right now they're the one that get the text. So if you want, they're going to distribute it to you, but you have to be on their distribution list for them to distribute it to you. So. Okay, Madam Chair. With that.
Thank you, Chantaline. I'll now open the floor to 4 questions for Chantaline.
On the secondary passes, from the information that they've been sent to us, they're editing a certain number, which if we do, the question is, will we have the 83 passes for each dialogue or a total of 83 passes? That's very complicated, because if it's only 83 passes, that means we need to distribute 83 and then recover 83, distribute 83, recover 83, and that means following people like hell.
Yeah, the instructions that we have is there's going to be different tickets. They call them tickets and secondary passes, but it's the same thing. They're going to be different for each of them. They're not going to be the same colors or the same. They're differentiated for each dialogue.
So 830 passes per.
I don't think we should discuss this amongst everybody because it's not useful information for everybody. So let's discuss that in the open meeting.
Second
Thank you.
question.
Yesterday, we had difficulty getting the room numbers for the clusters. And I wonder, is there any way that you know them and you could just read them out like they did in the plenary on the first day, made it a lot easier?
I did read them yesterday, and I did project them on the screen yesterday, and then there was an updated version that came along, which I sent to the organizing partners, and again, I don't have your list, so you make sure you're on the organizing partners list. I have a list of today. Like you see, I sent everything I have. They changed the schedule during the day. Even the chair, he said yesterday, it's not yet in the e-room. When he says it's not in the e-room, that means the delegates don't even have it.
Yes. Certainly, you distributed the working groups, but not the clusters. I didn't see those on board yesterday. The actual clusters, the 4 clusters, we economy, IFSD, etc.
They were there.
They were distributed, sorry.
Sorry.
Third question.
Just a clarification, one does not have secondary passes. Our regular pass will get us into Rio Centro next week, right?
Yeah, I keep forgetting to say that. People get nervous about that. This gets you to Rio Centro from the 13th of June, well, actually the 12th of June to the 22nd of June. Rio Centro is access, full access. The only place that has restricted access is Pavilion 5, where there's secondary passes. Thank you for reminding me.
One more question? Not seeing a 4th question, we will then call the meeting. Oh, here's a question.
It's a purely logistical question, but is it possible to pick an update to call them? Is there a form of the
colleague yesterday, I was freezing, I was told I was crazy, but we've told them and we've asked for reducing. In the pavilion, the major group pavilion, we have a control in our office. Come and visit us, it's control all of the ones, so if it's too cold, just come and borrow it. For here, we've asked, and they keep saying they can't do it. Keep asking. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, before we close this, as we are all interested in information, we have the ENB and Pam Kasich and Timo has given us that information every morning. We also have the magazine called Outreach, which has been in production since 1996. This is not the 1996 edition. This is an alien edition. This is where you also can contribute. It's got commentaries on what's happening in the negotiating room. If you don't have it, get it. And remember, these become collector's items. They're sold later at extortionate prices. So keep them safe. But they're all available here.
I think there's one more comment by Shazlin.
I'm sorry, I just forgot to mention that every day there's an opportunity to have a press conference. And what the organizing partners are doing right now is collecting the name, the expertise, and the language spoke by people that would be interested in addressing the press on the issues being negotiated here. So this list is being circulated and it's been collected by the organizing partners. We can share that with our journalists so that they can approach you if they need to, if they want to have an interview with people on different topics. We also do the usage to organize the daily press conference that are done. There's one press conference reserved here in the Pavilion 3 in the press area for civil society, and then basically it's organized with the organizing partners. But again, go see your organizing partners as well.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. So tomorrow we will be meeting, we don't know which room, but it'll be 9:30 to 10:30. And shared by Annabelle. Thank you all very much and have a good day.